All right, everyone. We continue with our next session here from Lucas. Before we start, short heads up. No idea. Do you have the cable in it?
I'm connected. But wait.
There must be a remote control somewhere.
Wait. Switching to HDMI.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Okay, starting from scratch. So, last point from our stream today is Lucas. Before we started the stream, I wanted to lean your attention towards the whiteboard over there. We're gonna offering office hours where you can just use one of our mentors here and book a 20 minutes to 30 minutes time slot. So all you have to do is take a pen and write your name on the table, and then the office hour will basically start the moment you're ready. It's just an offering, but it's a good one, I guess. So please make the best use out of it. And without further doubt, I mean, you now have your product, you have your amazing idea. Lucas is our super team bestie as well, and he's going to help you to structure it so that the user can really enjoy the journey. And without saying more words, I give it up to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does that microphone work too well?
Is the microphone on?
Is it
I don't
on?
know. Maybe I take yours.
Yeah, do that.
That's louder, right? Okay. So after all those technical workshops from Leo and Nick, I have something also for the non-technical people here in the room. So after all the tech stuff you probably weren't too much interested in, I think now I have something where you can contribute to your team as well. We will talk about 3 methods that follow after each other that help you to get from your idea that you have in your mind for the hackathon to an actual idea how to implement it. This process I learned during the turbine course I'm currently going through, and we will later on also see some examples that fellow students of mine created. So let's start with the letter of intent. That's the most superficial, most basic approach to structure what is your idea. You have those 6 questions that you can go through and can answer, so you get a bit more clarity about what your idea is about. First, of course, what's the name of your idea? Maybe you already have a product name, or you just describe the idea. Then you go a bit more into detail, flesh out what your idea is about. Then you think about why do you choose this idea? And I think that's the first step where you can think about, does it even make sense what we are doing? Because I think there are a lot of ideas out there, and you should really have a good reason why you want to focus on that one, because otherwise, if the times get tough, you maybe want to drop the idea, you don't want to pull through. So if you have a strong motivation why you want to realize that idea, that will help you during the hackathon, or if you even want to push it further as a startup afterwards to keep going when times are tough. Of course, it's not a bad thing to also think a bit about go-to-market strategy. I think with the Solana hackathons, that's the maybe the specialty that we have here, that those hackathons are not just tech hackathons, but almost like startup contests. So if you have a good idea how you would go to market with what you're doing, you have an edge over people who just think about the tech. And then in the end, not forgetting about the tech, think about what do you need to implement all of that, what are the, how will you build the program on chain for Solana, what are the front-end plans you have, but that only on a very, very superficial level, so not too deep, just have a rough idea what you want to do. That's the first step. I mean, I think we will share the slides afterwards, but just answering these questions is the first step. Then we come to user stories. And I think user stories are a very important thing because they force, especially developers, to take a step back and don't think as developers. But you have to put yourselves into the shoes of your user and describe the journey the user is doing on your platform. So in the style of, as a user, I want functionality so that benefit, that's the main formula you have for user stories. And we will go into 3 examples on the next slides to give it a bit more context. You want to first identify all your users. So when you know your users, you can then think about how is the journey for each of those users. Then you start where the user enters your platform, and you narrate the whole story, how the experience is the user does there. And then you have all those stories that you can later on think about how you implement them in code. But for now, you don't think too much about the implementation, but more about what do you want your user to experience. And it's okay if those change later on. It's just a point to start with, and then you can refine those stories as you progress, but they give you a good guideline what you want to implement, and they also might help you to prevent feature creep. That means that, oh, we could do this, and we could that, and oh, have you thought about this? Because if you have this journey written down, then you know, okay, that's necessary for what we want to achieve for the hackathon, and that's not necessary. So that helps you to focus and to get to a result in the end. So when we think about the peer-to-peer price betting platform that I'm currently implementing, what are the users we have? We have the bet creator, the person who says, hey, I bet that Bitcoin is above 100K in 2 weeks. Then we have the bet taker, say, hey, no, I don't believe that. I want to bet that it's below that. And then both people find they find each other, they accept the bet, and then the game is on. And once the time is up, like in 2 weeks, we have the bet resolver, and that's in brackets for this case because it could be the creator and the taker, or it could be a third party. So it's not really a user in itself, but I think it's more like a role that we have there. That's why I mentioned it as well. So what does the bet creator want to do? As a bet creator, I want an easy way to open a bet. I mean, that's obvious. I like to then add some more description with the acceptance criteria. What I say, hey, if those criteria are met, I think the user story is fulfilled. So the bet gets created with the on-chain program. The wager is put into the vault, and ideally, all of that is easy to understand for the user. Then, as the bet creator, I want customization options so that I have full control over the bet I'm creating. And there, under the acceptance criteria, I just listed what I think is interesting for the bet creator to be able to customize. And third, as the bet creator, I want an easy way to share my bet with friends and other potential people that might be interested in taking me up on that bet. And that's the part where I'm already thinking a bit in an implementation way, where I say, hey, maybe we could do links. So you get a link, you can share it everywhere, and ideally, the other person can accept that with just a simple click. And in this way, you have to go through the whole process. Think about also canceling, about later resolving the bet, about claiming the winnings as the winner and stuff like that. But I think for examples, I have just brought you those 3. And yeah, sure.
I love the example, it's really nice. I'm just wondering, who will at the end decide which bet is won? So how can you basically...
This will be an oracle. Like you have providers on chain that put data there. They aggregate data from different venues that generate prices, like decentralized exchanges, but also centralized exchanges. And they put this data on chain, so it's available for you. There are providers like Pith or a Switchboard that are specializing in this, and those you integrate in your smart contracts.
So basically the bets you can create, they're limited. When I say basically what these source providers can offer, you cannot just,
Exactly.
you cannot say I'm betting what is the better tomorrow, yes, no.
You actually can, because Switchboard offers you to bring any APIs on chain. So if you have an API that offers you the weather data, you could bet on the weather. But yes, you need some way to bring the data on chain so that works. So For weather, it works, but in general, you are absolutely right. It's limited what you can bet on, because somehow you need the data to resolve the bet on chain. So
And basically, if you compare this to a typical centralized solution, it's, I don't have to follow any legal regulations anymore, right? This is basically the main advantage.
I think the main advantage is that it's written in code what happens with the wager you put in. So you have that program on chain that holds the $100 the one party puts in, the $100 the other party puts in, and that's not in an account. Like if I'm a betting provider and they send it to me, I could theoretically do something with this. If you write that as a smart contract, it's clearly written down what can happen to that. So
just, I think it's not working, but
it's just for the stream.
okay. So okay, I now get it. So basically, you say no third party gets a commission, right?
Exactly. You have no
Perfect.
chance to move the money out. So that's what I meant by an escrow contract when we discussed earlier. Because if you have today people betting, I bet that Bitcoin is above $1 million. There was this one bet that Belashi, I think, did, and then someone took him up on that, and then they search for a third party who keeps their wager and gives it to the person who is right in the end.
Maybe can you tell us again the API provider that basically everything on chain?
Switchboard. I mean, I'm just diving into it. I'm not quite sure how in detail they work, but they have basically a network of people who execute code on secure enclaves in their machines, and you can basically generate a feed by putting in the API, and they pull it for you and put it on chain. So it's available to your program on chain, because that's one of the big problems you have. You can only put something in a program that's actually on chain. And so those oracles are quite an important thing, and a big problem solver, and at the same time, kind of a limitation you have with building on chain.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we move to the architecture diagram, feels like moving pretty quickly. Do we have more questions here, especially from the non-technical people who, and if you know a better word for non-technical people, like we discussed with Esther yesterday, it always feels like non-technical means you're inferior, because that's not the case. I think you're the communication geniuses, you're the marketing genius. You do the stuff I suck at completely. So if you find a better word, that would be great, I think. Yeah, but if there are more questions, because I think that's the part where you can greatly contribute to shaping how your application in the end will look like. Because yeah, that's just the user perspective. That's creativity, how stuff should work out in the end. No more questions? Then I'll yes.
Today with AI, so once again, how we can help, like exactly here in the peer-to-peer, like if we can build something fresh, new, or if we can have like help, if there are like some applications or new like websites that use AI to help like no coding people for that. Thank you.
I mean, your question is basically, can we use AI to help us generate those user stories? I mean, for sure, probably you can just use ChatGPT and every other GPT model that's currently out there to do something like that. But I think you are missing a big opportunity if you try to outsource this step, because I think that's where you really have to think hard about what's your idea about. How do you want the user to be guided through the journey you're offering him? Because especially as a dev, I know when you later on dive deep into the code, you completely forget what the user experience is about, because you think about, is it easy to implement that? Is it possible? What do I think is fancy? What technology do I want to use? So I think it's a great opportunity to take to go there and just have a close look. How do you want the user experience to be in the end? And of course, then if you have written that down, then maybe use an AI to enrich this or to put it into a better structure. But I think, at least for now, I would guess it's a good idea to really put the human emphasis on there and not outsource it to an AI, at least not too much. At least guide the AI very, very closely. Okay, so now we have a collection of those user stories. Yeah, what do we do next? Do we start coding right away? To quote Leo, who was earlier on stage in one of the Turbine lectures recently, he said, a well-structured plan of all the components of your application saves you the effort to code things multiple times. And I think, especially when you start to code in Anchor and in Rust and you structure your program, there's a lot of accounts you have to put in every instruction and a lot of complicated stuff going on. If you have a great plan to start from, I think that especially when you're not super experienced, but even if you're super experienced and do complicated stuff, it saves you so much time later on where you have to reiterate and think about how stuff interacts with each other. So when you look about what components does the application actually have, how do you structure your program on chain, how do different parts of your application interact with each other, what external dependencies have we? So, for example, the oracles we were talking about are one of those interactions. Or if you want to save the money that is put into the bets, if you say, hey, let's put it into some other protocol where we earn some yield, while, for example, we do a year-long bet and the stuff is locked in, why don't we not get some yield during that time? And then the pool is even bigger once it comes to the close of the bet. Yeah, also, how does the data model on-chain and off-chain look like and stuff like that? Yes, I'm breaking down. This is an example from one of my fellow students in the Turbine course. We will see it shortly in a bit more detail because I put out the different segments here. So first, we look at the the state. So the PDAs. Björn earlier talked about the program-derived accounts where the program actually stores data. So to identify those, you need seeds. And if you are clear about how those seeds are structured, you have already done a big step, because that's basically the keys that identify where the data lies. So if you mess those up, you probably have a problem, because then you don't find the data later on anymore. Also, it's important who are the signers for your program. So who are the users that actually need a wallet to make a signature? Because it's probably important to consider who can actually make a signature and can be a signer, and what is just a PDA that cannot sign actually. Then I think example star should be data model. Then you should flesh out what's in those PDAs. First, we did how do you reach those PDAs. Now we go into the classic data model. What's actually in those PDAs? And then we put everything together and we structure how those instructions, like the green boxes, what do those instructions? Who has to sign to do those instructions? And in the end, how can we combine them into transactions that we don't sign for every step, because we can combine multiple transactions to achieve an outcome. And if you do that diligently, you have a great battle plan how to build your application in the end. And coming back to our peer-to-peer price betting platform, that's not quite as beautiful as my fellow student did. That's the architectural diagram I did for my application. We have some states and PDAs. We have some signers. We defined how the bet and the betting program, what data they need, and then at the bottom we defined a bit more like what the user stories would look like. And drilling down on that a little bit. So if you are the bet creator and you want to create a new bet, so you call the prize program. And the prize program then creates the bet, and the bet has no associated vault that holds the wager for you. And when you create the bet, you already put your money in there. So the moment someone else accepts it, the bet is on, because otherwise you would be need to pay in later. So of course, if no one takes your bet or you want to retract it, you need the ability to cancel it. And then if you want to cancel it, you need to close all the accounts and transfer the money back, because for all the accounts you create, you pay a little bit of rent. And if you close the accounts, you get that back. So it's good practice to tidy up on the chain and collect all the lamparts you distributed around to your user again, so they don't lose they're not bleeding lamparts left and right, because the accounts just stay open even if they are not used anymore. And of course, if the user accepts the bet, he has also to pay what's due for the wager. And then when the bet is actually taking place, then our program can also take away a little bit of fees, put it to the treasury, and then the bet is on. So I wish you all good luck with your projects. I'll be in one of the people, of the mentors who will be available for the office hours later on. So if you already have an idea, maybe you already thought a bit about maybe the letter of intent about user stories, we can talk about that. Otherwise, we can talk about a lot of other stuff as well. As you know, I'm also more on the technical side. So if there are any questions, happy to connect with you later. So.
Yeah, thanks so much, Luca. Thanks so much, Lucas, for your presentation. Yeah, I think we all learned something. At least I did. Super cool to go through those programs again. Maybe there's questions. I'm not sure. Are there questions? 1, 2. Okay. Well then, thank you so much again, Lucas. And yeah, see you on the office hours.